Good day, everyone. So, today I'll be doing a brief video on how I was able to get this setups on Xauusd, which is gold. So, we all know gold has been creating multiple break of structure. If you check my previous video before this, you know what I'm talking about. So, we know gold has been creating multiple break of structure. So, it got to this region here where gold did a market structure shift. Then you see the retrace back up where gold retested on the order block. Then you see since then price has been pushing to the downside, creating multiple break of structure. And if you watch my previous videos, I always talk about order blocks and breaker block, and I said each time price creates a break of structure, it must always go back to retest on either an order block or a breaker block. So most especially for gold most especially uses gold mostly use the breaker block instead of the order block. Just few times where you see the order block and the breaker block, that's the only scenario you see gold use the order block. But in cases where there's no order block, the gold will always use the breaker block. So let's move to the other parts of today's video. So see, price has been creating break of structure from this point, created the first break of structure, and after the break of structure, price must always go back to retest on a breaker block or an order block. So you see the first break of structure, then you see this pullback to the upside. So after this first break of structure, what did I do next? I moved down to, I always use multiple time frames, so I started checking multiple time frames just for me to be able to spot the breaker block. And one thing you should always know is that if price is moving on a downtrend, each time price move on a downtrend creating break of structure, and you see price come back to retest on either a breaker block or an order block, the order block or the breaker block must always be on the left side. If that's for a downtrend, the order block or the breaker block must always be on the left side. You must always see the order block or breaker block on the left side. If you see the order block or the breaker block on this right side, just know there's a high chance for price to break above the order block or breaker block. So that's what you should always know when using order block and breaker block. So now, after the break of structure, I was looking for an order block or a breaker block from that region there. So what did I do next? I moved down to multiple time frame. Since there's no visible order block or breaker block there, I started checking multiple time frames. 5 minutes, check 5 minutes. See, there's no visible order block, so started going higher. 30-minute time frame. You always use multiple time frame after a break of structure so you can be able to spot the order block. So now you see on 30-minute time frame, you can clearly see the order block at this point on 30-minute time frame. So you see I mark the I always use the body of the candle. I don't use the wick of the candle. So I use the body of the candle. I mark the body of the candle. Then I drew it to the right side. I indicated that as the BB, meaning breaker block. So I drew that to the left side. And you see, immediately price came, tap into the breaker block. It distributed down to create another break of structure. See, price distributed down to create another break of structure. So after the break of structure, what next? Now you have to look for another order block or breaker block. See, price created another break of structure here after distributing to the downside. So now what will you do next? You will look for another breaker block or order block from the left side. Remember, for a downtrend, it must always be on the left side. Must always be on the left side. The order block or the breaker block must always be on the left side. So now what do I do next? I look for an order block or a breaker block from that left side. So now from this 30-minute time frame, you won't be able to see that very clearly, so you have to check multiple time frames so you can be able to spot the order block or breaker block. So now if you drop down to the 15-minute time frame, time, you can clearly see the breaker block here. This is an order block that got violated and it has turned into a breaker block. So now I drew that line, I indicated that as the BB. I drew that line back to the right side, so you can see MACD price came in, tap on the BB, it distributed to the downside, which is this point, creating another break of structure here. So now after this break of structure, what did I notice? Remember from previous video, I always talk about each time price, let's say price is moving on a downtrend, creating break of structures, price created a break of structure just like this, then you see price come back to retest on the breaker block, then distribute to the downside. So now if there's a breaker block, if price first retest on the breaker block here, let's say there's a breaker block at this point, price retested on that breaker block, let me take this out, the price retested on that breaker block, and there's also an order block here, you see price will first of all retest on the breaker block, take out this liquidity here, creating a break of structure, then you see price come back again for the order block before final distribution to the downside, creating the final break of structure here. See price creating the final break of structure here. So this particular pattern, I will show you this kind of particular pattern on the screen so you can be able to understand it very clearly. So now from this point here, the first break of structure, taking out liquidity to create the first retest on the breaker block, then distribution to the downside, creating the break of structure. This is what price has already done at this point. Let me mark it out. So this is what price has already done at this region here. So now look at it, the first break of structure, break of structure, then you see price retest on the breaker block. First of all, retest on the breaker block, then coming down again to take out this sell side liquidity, creating a break of structure, which is this first break of structure here, taking out the first break of structure. So now from this point here, if you should go down to a lower time frame, from that point, if you should go down to a lower time frame, let's go to the 5-minute time frame. Down to the 5-minute time frame, you can clearly see there's an order block there. So now from this pattern, now you see price will first of all create a break of structure, retest on the breaker block, another break of structure, then you see price coming for the order block before distributing to take out previously creating another break of structure. So these are the things you must always know. Firstly, break of structure, retest on order block, break of structure, retest on breaker block, break of structure again, retest on order block, then final break of structure. So I'll be showing you that on the screen now. So this is the first break of structure. Retest on breaker block. Break of structure again. You will see price come for this order block there. So to now be retest on order block, then final break of structure to the downside. So this is how you can always get this kind of A setups using this particular strategy. You can always get this kind of A setup using this particular strategy. And if you watch my previous video, I gave analysis on this particular trade I took here. On my last video, I gave an analysis on this particular trade, and you see it played out exactly how I analyzed it. So this is what we're expecting gold to do from, let's say, as from next week. We expect gold to retest on this unmitigated order block at this point, and this, we are going to use this as our liquidity. You can also call it the inducement, meaning the first pullback after the break of structure. You can call this your inducement. So this is what we're expecting if you follow this exact same pattern. Remember, you can only use this pattern if there's an order block or a breaker block after a break of structure, because from this point now, you can see there's an order block and a breaker block just in one particular side. Like on the left side, there's an order block and a breaker block in one particular side. But in cases where there's no order block and there's just a breaker block, you will see price just use only the breaker block, then continue creating multiple breaker of structure. But in cases where there is an order block and a breaker block in one particular side, price will first use the breaker block, take out liquidity, then go back again to use the order block. While in cases where there's no breaker block, price will just use only the order block. So there are three things. If there's a breaker block, let me type it on the screen. If there's a breaker block, let me make this very bold. If there's a breaker block and order block in one side, price will use the breaker block first. Price will use the breaker block first. Take out liquidity. Take out liquidity, that's creating a break of structure. Then go back again for the order block. Before creating the final break of structure. So you see, each time there's an order block and a breaker block in one side, price will use the breaker block first, take out liquidity, that's creating the break of structure. Then you see price go back again to use the order block before creating a final break of structure. So this is what we're expecting gold to do for either this week or next week. So you just have to keep watching the charts and waiting for price. You have to be patient, wait for price to come to your point of interest. You don't have to chase the market. So now also, let me do a quick video also how I was able to get this particular trade. I was able to get that particular trade. So let's go to the 15-minute time frame. I think I took this trade on the 15-minute time frame. Okay, from this point you can see there's an order block here, and you see price broke above the order block, meaning this order block has automatically turned into a breaker block. If I broke above the order block, turned into a breaker block. So I just use the beginning of the order block as my point of interest. So you see price came back again to mitigate the breaker block, then push to the upside in order for you to use this order breaker block. So this is how you can always get a setups just like that. Wait for price to either create a breaker block, or anytime you see a valid order block, always use it to get your entries. And also one thing you should know, for a downtrend, like this, the breaker block must be on this side. The breaker block and the order block must be on this side. While for an uptrend, if you are trading an uptrend, price creating multiple highs like this, the order block or the breaker block must be on this side. It must be on this side. That's a valid order block or a valid breaker block. It must be on the left side. Include this one, it must be on the left side. So that's all I have for today, and let's watch how this setup goes. So this is what I'm expecting for gold next week or this week probably. So my stop loss will just be a few pips above. Then my take profit will be on this previous liquidity. So this is all I have for today, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can be able to get more updates on my video. And